I think I'm quite ready for another adventure.
No, man, let me take a look at that map right quick. Because we're tired of being the trail donkeys, acting like you some one-man GPS. Damn it! We lost!
I'm hopelessly lost!
Is this what day is this?
Hi, hello, hi. Well, it's the holidays. Hanukkah is right around the corner. Christmas is, I guess, around the other corner. And all the other holidays. So here we are, yes. What are we going to talk about today? Well, I had a few ideas in mind. And every time I try to tackle one of them via this podcast, I delete it because I realize it is a little too complicated of a subject to give a step-by-step walkthrough of. I was like, it basically was going to be how to meet people when you travel, how to approach people. I mean, honestly, you know what you have to do. Most people, when you travel, are, friendly, especially if you're in hostels. It is essentially a college dorm-style environment of all age groups, all, gender and race and culture, and it is a hodgepodge. And no one in their right mind would go and stay in one of these if they hated other people, or if they were, hermits, or they like to isolate themselves. It's a very odd place to go. It's like going and to a butcher to try out their meat of the day if you're a vegan. It just doesn't make sense. Just like that metaphor made absolutely no sense. It makes no sense. Okay? So if you're going to go to a hostel, or hell, if you're going to start a new job, you're going to go to school, how do you meet people? Well, you can just sit back and hope to God that somebody sees you and for some reason thinks your face looks really interesting and wants you to invite you into the group, which could happen. Very unlikely, though. You know what you got to do? You got to have some huevos. Okay, you got to be brave. You got to walk up to a group of people and say, "Hello, my little friend. Let me in. Let me tell you about me." And then they won't let you in. So don't do that. But you know what you do? You be brave. You ask if you can sit down at their table. You just stand next to a group of people who, especially if it's a big group of people, and just listen to what everybody's saying. And when you feel like you got something of value to say, go ahead and chime in. That's about it. Now, if you happen to be, one-trick pony, the only thing you know, the only thing you like to talk about is cars. I'm a car man. I'm a gearhead. Well, I really hope you expand your repertoire, okay? Rather than one arrow, have a quiver of arrows. Expand your mind. Don't just find new interests for the sake of being more interesting in a conversation, but maybe broaden your scope of things you research and understand and learn. That way you can have something to say on any topic. I remember growing up, my mother would tell me she kind of said it in not the best way, but she was referencing somebody as being a jack of all trades and a master of none. And for a long time in my life, I was like, well, shit. I don't think I'm a master of anything, but I happen to be pretty good at a lot of things, or I understand a bit about a lot of things. Sometimes a decent amount about certain things, but I'm certainly not an expert on one thing. And as I learned growing up, I would much rather be a jack of all trades than a master of one. Why? Because I can sit down with, not trying to toot my own horn here, I'm just giving you an example of why it's beneficial to be well-versed in maybe a lot of things, or at least just have the ability to expand on different subjects. But I can sit down with just about anybody other than car people. I don't care about cars. I don't care about... I had a Harley, a motorcycle, for a very long time. You know what people think when you own a motorcycle? That you know something about motorcycles. All I know is how to ride them. I have no idea the details of it, the mechanics of it, how it works. I can't name you parts. Hell, I remember I'm getting a little off topic here, but I remember when I went to the dealership to get a piece for my bike. And the lady behind the counter, younger girl in tattoos, said, "What kind of bike you got, son?" I was like, 2005 Dinah Cruiser. And she's like, that's not a thing. And I was like, oh, well, then I have absolutely no idea what it is. Because that's what the guy told me. It ended up being like a soft tail something. I don't know. I know how to write him. I don't know anything about him. For some reason, I don't seem to want to expand my mind on that. So I'm probably not going to make a lot of friends with a lot of people who are obsessed with cars. Anyways, moving on. But anything else I find pretty damn interesting. Music, politics, so I try to stay away from real deep, heavy political conversations, unless they're kind of even keel and non-emotional. I try not to get into conversations with people who are highly emotional when it comes to politics, just because typically they're just going to get upset, because I don't tend to just agree with people to agree with them. But just about every subject I find interesting. And so I'm able to have conversations with someone. So expand your mind, be open to talking about different things. And particularly, ask a lot of questions. You want the ultimate comfort. Here's the greatest tool in your bag for meeting new people, or traveling, whatever, workspace. When you have to talk to someone, or when you have the opportunity to talk with a person, whether you're in line for a long time, you're waiting before your meeting starts, you're sitting across from someone, hell, you have an opportunity to sit with a boss, or again, you're at a hostel and you're sitting with two people early in the morning, you wake up, two other people are up, you're all having their coffee. Start asking questions. Don't ask the questions that you just want to give your answer to. Ask them questions. And if they then ask after they give their response, what do you think, or what did you do, whatever your question was, then give your response. But make it about them. Have it be an opportunity to learn about the other people. What's that going to do for you? One, it just shows that you care. It makes the other person feel more comfortable. And two, you can learn whether you actually want to be friends with this person. I typically am not a fan of people who just love to talk about themselves. It's exhausting. I especially don't like negative people who, everybody likes to find common ground with another individual when they're having a conversation. If that person seems to only want to find a common connection to me based on horrible things that have happened that day, or if I say, hey, how was your trip? And the things they choose to highlight are the bad things, I don't want to be friends with you. I'm sure you're a lovely person and different, to others, and I'm sure you're going to have lots of friends, but I will not be one of them. I like nice people. I like positive people, nice people, accommodating people. So that's what I tend to go towards. Those are the people I'm drawn to. So ask a lot of questions, and you know what you're going to do? Next thing you know, you're going to be in a full conversation with someone, and and if you find them interesting and thoughtful and nice, your interests are similar. Now you're probably like, Ryan, this sounds like you're trying to set me up on a date. Is this what you do on a date? Well, yes, it is what you also do on a date. You ask about the person. You ask them question. And if they give you a bunch of one-word responses, one, either they don't like you very much, or two, they're just not that interesting. And you can move on. But yes, friendships, make them, build them. The more the better. Now, I'm not saying quantity over quality. Quality comes later. You start with just a friendship. And if you want that friendship to build into a quality friendship, or if you want to maintain your relationships, there's a lot more work that has to go into it. Now, when you're traveling with people, you probably don't have the years to maintain a relationship unless, again, you make the effort. You keep in contact with those people, specifically with traveling. I've met some of my favorite people in the world traveling. And I try to stay in communication, even if it's just a few messages a year. How you doing? What you up to? Obviously the intent of visiting, which is hard, but, if you just stop talking to the person once you leave, that is the end of it. It wasn't a friendship. It was a circumstantial, convenient team up to do activities and then to separate. Like a play date that was put together by the universe because you happen to be in the same place at the same time. So to maintain friendships takes a lot more work. But you can't maintain something you don't have. And if you go into a workspace or a hostel and you come in and you come in with your eyes, you know how the look is. You know the people who aren't approachable. It's the same person who walks down the street who has that look in their eye that certain movement, that unnecessarily heavy swagger step. It looks like they're looking for a fight, or a little aggressive, or it's don't come near me. It's clear there's a way to be approachable. One way to be approachable is to have the way you stand be a little loose, a little laid back. Point your body, your feet, towards the people you're interested in approaching you. Okay? The other thing is, when you're talking to someone, look them in the eye. It doesn't need to be a staring contest. You don't need to be creepy about it. And it is something that you have to make a conscious effort to do if it's not something you typically do. Again, you don't need to stare into the windows of their soul, but if you're someone who just can't... For example, I did a school about a year ago. It was a counselor appointment to figure out my classes, and I swear to you, the counselor did not look me in the eye. One time, I think when I walked in, the counselor did not look at me in the eye for an hour. One time. When she would point her body towards me to talk and look at the ceiling and snap her eyes to the floor and back to her computer. And I'm like, this is so weird. It was the weirdest thing. Anyways, don't do that. It immediately it disconnects you from the person. You don't feel like you're building. You can talk all you want, but if you want to build some sort of connection with the person, look them in the eye. Okay? Again, listen. Don't talk. Listen, unless you're, there's times for you. You'll know when the times are, but just don't try and dominate the conversation or be the loudest one there. Don't be that guy or that lady. So listen, look them in the eye. Again, be positive. No one likes a negative person. Actually, you know who likes negative people? Negative people. So if you are someone who just likes to tell about all the negative things that happen in your day, or if someone asks you about your, whatever, and the first thing you go to are negative things, that's fine. You're just going to end up surrounding yourself with negative people. So be positive, and you'll attract positive people. And honestly, if you work on those things, you'll be fine. When you're talking with someone, look them in the eye, nod your head when they say, it just shows you're engaged in the conversation. You can repeat things that the person says. They're like, oh, I ran around the corner, and the bear was just eating a, bag of berries. And it's like, wait. The bear was eating a bag of berries? ? It just shows that you're listening. And it keeps you listening. It's called active listening. Active listening is not hearing. It is listening. It is absorbing what they say, acknowledging it, repeating it, replying to it, and at the end, you can conclude it by, going back to certain points and then continuing the conversation. So those are that just those things alone will help you to meet people. At least when you meet people, which again, it's all for naught if you don't have the huevos, the cherries, my friend, to just go up and ask if you can sit next to somebody. Okay? Now, again, in all these circumstances, you're not asking the person out on a date who can just say no. It'd be very strange if you walked up to a group of people at a hostel or a work event and be like, hey, can I sit with you guys, at the lunch table or something? And they all said no. I wouldn't really know where to go with that. It's very strange. Maybe check the mirror, see if there's not something growing off your face. You're almost always going to be invited to sit. And then the way to not screw it up is just to do those things. Not be negative, not blabber on about yourself, but be thoughtful, ask questions, and be responsive when they ask you things. So, and again, just have a diverse range of things that you can have a take on. Doesn't need to be a strong take. Someone asks you something about politics. People aren't typically looking for someone to be like, you can agree with people just to agree with them. I mean, that'll probably actually help, but, don't abandon your actual feelings on a subject just to make friends with someone. Be yourself, but you don't need to be hardcore until you get comfortable with the person. But yeah, so again, these are basic things that I myself had to work on, very much so, especially on my solo trip in Asia. Everywhere I went, I just start talking to people. One, introduce yourself. There you go, starting point. You introduce yourself, and then you ask questions. And then when they say something, you expand on that. And it's like a family tree, but it's a conversational tree. Look, it starts at, what's your name? Where are you from? Where are you going? And it's amazing how many conversations can break off that. So, but then real quick, I want to talk about. I am going to finish this with something that's completely unrelated to what we're talking about right now. And this may not feel like a travel podcast right now, travel topic, but it certainly is. It certainly is. And I highly recommend everybody to travel by themselves at one point. I just think, not because it's particularly enjoyable to experience something incredible by yourself. I don't think it is. And I know that every time in Asia that I experience something that would typically be incredible and the highlight of my trip, it wasn't that if I was by myself. Halong Bay in Vietnam probably would have been a highlight of my trip had I experienced it with someone else. I was by myself. All my most memorable moments of that trip were things that I experienced with people that I met and that I built relationships with, formed friendships with, and experienced different things with. Those are the most memorable things. Even if the actual act itself, the actual site itself, was less, it just meant more to me to do the things with people. So I just mean travel by yourself because I really think that it's a good test of one's character. I think it really forces you to, again, work on the ability to meet people, to just have a little bit of a serious independence. And I don't know, I learned a lot about myself on that trip, and I just assume that most people can also learn similar lessons. So, but real quick on friendships. So here we are. There you went. You did it. You introduce yourself to strangers. That's great. You ask them lots of questions. You learn things about them. You kind of like these people. That's great. And we're going to move on from the travel thing. Okay. You did it. You made the friends with people traveling. Let's just take this back home real quick. All right, let's bring this closer to home. You got friends, okay? Now, I'm sure you notice that some of your friends you feel like have a whole lot of friends. You're like, man, Jesse has like 15 friends. I got like 3. What the hell? I'm likable. I'm cool. I like video games. We're all my friends. Now, I think it can be possible that someone just happens to be a little less likable, but I think that is something that could be worked on. Why is the person unlikable? Why do you think maybe you're not as likable? Is that the case? Is it that maybe you are a negative person, possibly? Or that you do tend to talk about yourself a lot and not, actually want to make it a conversation, but more of a monologue? Let's say that none of those things are true. Let's say you are just as likable. That when you are in a group of people, people are drawn to you and are interested in you, and you are likable and you are positive. Let's say all those things are true. I'm going to say, and they are true. Aren't you likable? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So why don't you have all the friends? What happened to, Tim from high school or from work? What happened to your coworker who you were so close with at work? But you got a new job, and you don't really see them anymore. You don't talk to them. There really isn't a relationship there anymore. Or, parents who, your kid's in a sport, and you got all these friends. You're always going to parties because why? Maybe the circumstances just allow for you to have more friends. These people are there. It's convenient. It's easy. You got to be there anyways, 3 days a week for practice and then a game on the weekend. You're going to meet these people. You're going to be around them all the time. And in between events, you're like, these are my friends. We're very close. We talk about things. But then your kid stops playing sports. Or you leave a sport. And you don't really see any of them anymore. Why is that? Well, it's because friendships really aren't all that easy. And they're not all that convenient. They take work. Relationships, just like with your significant other or your family, the friends you make at work, the friends you make in school, the friends you make at sports, whatever the circumstances are, they take work. Okay? Effort. Now, they may have formed out of just happenstance, no effort. Friendships were formed. That's totally normal. But they'll never just continue and maintain without effort. I truly believe that. Just as a thought, there was an Australian nurse named Bronnie Ware. She wrote a book on her experiences working as a nurse, and she kind of mentioned that pretty much the biggest deathbed regret that she had from her patients that they told her were that they didn't maintain their friendships. Now you think about that, you're like, really, of all things? Not that, I didn't go to that country, or I didn't help people in my life. It was not maintaining friendships. And it totally makes sense to me. Because to maintain a friendship, it takes a lot of work. And most people are lazy. And most people don't want to do things they don't want to do. If you want to have sustained, true, quality friendships, they take work, they take effort, and they honestly force you to accommodate others, your friends, maybe more than you feel accommodated. Because honestly, for me, personally, I mentioned this to Jamie recently. I feel like if there's anything that I've gained in my life value-wise, if I could turn anything, whether it's if I can quantify something in my life that is of the most value that I'll have forever, it's my friendships that I've formed and that I've kept. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends because I put a lot of effort in with all my friends. I put the time in to go see them, to communicate with them, to reach out to them, to make time to visit. It's not for me about giving presents because I am a horrible gift giver. I essentially just don't give gifts. Maybe it's because I'm cheap. I don't know. But the one thing that I will give to my friends is my time. And I really, truly believe that that's why I've maintained so many of my relationships and why I have so many close relationships is because I give my people my time, my attention, and then my affection. So if you have friends and you're like, yeah, nowadays I really only have like one person in my life, or two, or none. Nobody who I can rely on. Well, let me ask you this. How much can they rely on you? Do you bail on plans? Do you only do things with them that you really want to do? I'm not saying if you hate boats to go sailing with the person just because they want to. I'm talking about reasonably. If they're like, hey, will you go see this movie with me? Go see the movie with them. What's it going to hurt? It's doing something for others that you would hope that they would do for you. Because I guarantee you there are interests in your life, there are things you like to do, movies you'd want to see, whatever it is, that you want to do that perhaps your friends really aren't that interested in. But they'll do it for you because they care about you and they're willing to accommodate your interests because they care. So you should do the same for them. Again, to a reasonable level here. I'm not saying, if you hate wine, to go wine tasting with your friends. Hell, maybe do go wine tasting with your friends. Just don't get wine. Bring a little flask of whiskey. That's fine. That's fine. But effort, relationships, and expectations. So again, it's about accommodating your friends, being there, being reliable for your friends. If they need you, be there for them. It's understandable if you can't, but one of the things that I'll tell you right now, it's happened in my life. I've had friends who, months of every time I reach out to them to do something, they either don't respond, or it's always a no, or they're, whatever the reason is. There are legitimate reasons. But after a time, it's just inevitable to where I'm just not going to invite that person to things anymore. Not because I don't care about them or love them, but because what's the point? They're going to say no. What is to make me think that they're going to say yes this time? And what are the expectations that I will always invite the person forever, even though it's always a no? Because what if one time they say yes? It's like, well, I'm sorry, but people cannot be awarded that much free range. It's an unreasonable expectation to have on a person to always consider you, just in case you might one day actually feel like doing something. So you know how you always stay in the loop? You know how you'll always stay in the text invites, the Facebook invites, the call invites, is you go to things. And it's not always going to be easy. You're not always going to want to do it. Sometimes you'd rather just stay home and do nothing. I get it. Sometimes I want to do that. And sometimes it's okay to do that. But to have that be the majority and the minority being you actually making an appearance, the day will come to where you're no longer going to get invited to things. You're going to be forgotten about. Not completely. They'll remember you and they'll kind of wish you were there sometimes, but you're going to end up leaving their conversations. You're not going to be a topic. You're not going to be invited to things. And that's essentially the not maintaining relationships thing that the nurse Bronnie Ware was saying that her patients regretted. So maintain your relationships. Make constant efforts. Reach out to people, you know? And again, this is such a big deal for me because I feel like I do this with my friends. And it brings me incredible comfort and value in my life where I have people in my life who I feel don't do this. And I have serious sympathy. And I don't know if necessarily they feel it now, but I feel like one day they will look back and they will and they may have these regrets. Hopefully not on their deathbed. Hopefully it happens sooner. Or the effort is made. You reach out. So that probably got a little dark right there. Sorry about that. But I'm very passionate about making efforts with your friends. Going any way. Because again, I do have friends who are reliable and who are accommodating, and I have others who are not. And it is very recognizable. And I don't forget it. I know the friends that I can count on. I know the friends I can't. And so I would hope that if, again, you started by being able, making these friendships, again, whether just they happen to just form naturally because of circumstances, kid plays a sport, you work at a job, you work with people, they form. But to maintain them, to have them, to be someone who you have options, you have friends, people that care about you, it takes work. You have to be reliable, accommodating, lower your expectations of them. Don't just think that, Jim has to show up to everything. Now, granted, I will say I have this problem. I want my friends, if I invite my friends to things, I want them to show up to them. But, within reason. I've kind of lowered my this is something that took, of all the things with maintaining relationships, the one that took me the longest to get a grip on was lowering my expectations of friends. Just understanding, look, there are certain friends of mine who I just accept will never do things. Once in a blue moon, they'll come out. Or certain friends who they will only hang out under these very specific parameters. And I'm like, that's fine. That's fine. Those relationships are not going to be as meaningful long-term, perhaps. I'll always care about these people. Or I just won't see them as much, which worries me because then I'm like, well, maybe we'll grow apart. I don't know. Perhaps that's me just getting too built up on it. But yeah, just knowing that certain friends, I hang out with only these specific friends. It's a comfort factor for them, whatever the reason is. Again, changing expectations, not having a benchmark of, if you're going to be my friend, you have to check all these boxes. You have to be at everything I invite you to. You have to, whatever they are, just don't have that. There are certain friends who I have incredibly high expectations of, but they're very few. Very few friends who I have the expectations that I would have of a brother or a parent or a significant other. Very few. And you know why I have them of them? Because those are the ones that will always be there. They're always reliable. They're always accommodating. Those are the friendships that, again, they become like family. So, and be that for other people. I'm telling you, it will be the most rewarding thing in your life. But like I said, it's not easy. It takes time. It takes effort. And, you're going to spend a lot less time alone, a lot more time with people, and you may say that's not what you want, and maybe that really isn't what you want. But the days, there's going to be days where you wish you had people with you, and without you putting in the effort, maybe those people won't be there for you. Anyways, so sorry for being dark and brooding, potentially, but again, I got a little passionate about that. But if anything, just take away from the first part of maybe some skills on how to talk to people to where they're going to actually want to keep you around. Because again, if you don't have those, they're not even qualities. They're not even necessarily their skills. They're just actions to take while talking to people. Essentially, active listening. To be an active listener and a thoughtful person, you're going to be invited to things. There are people going to think about you and want to have you around. If you realize that people aren't doing that, well, maybe perhaps you weren't doing those things. You weren't positive. You weren't thoughtful. So try it out. There's one last thing I want to talk about, completely unrelated to meeting people, talking with people, and maintaining friendships. This may be a controversial take. This is just my take. But I tend to think that every single every meal I had in Europe, our version's better. Okay? America did it bigger and better. Really, they just did it more buttery, more sugary. That's really, that may just be it. More butter, more sugar, more cheese. Okay? Other than Ireland, Ireland and London, I'm sorry, they're not known for their grand and, their revolutionary takes on the culinary art. They're not. Stews, boiled meat, their breakfast, lovely. Can't go wrong. I will say it's hard to find a breakfast in Europe that I fancy, unless it has eggs, sausage, bacon, bread, butter, jam. The typical thing, typical American breakfast, which I guess, or the English breakfast with the Heinz beans. My God, I love that breakfast. I get it every time at this one local place near me because it is the only place near me that serves a proper English breakfast. 2 bangers, yes, please. But overall, in Ireland, it was like I had their breakfast and then some stews. It's hard to go wrong when you cook a piece of beef and some broth for hours with potatoes and carrots. But pretty much everywhere else I went in Europe, if I had, especially Italy, their pasta, ours is better. I'm sorry, it is. I think so. More cheese. And maybe that's not the traditional Italian way, but, we evolved. We made it bigger, made it better. The pizza there. I know people are going to hate me. I know my friends don't agree with me. I have some weird takes on pizza, but I like ours better. Where in God's name, I remember the first time I had pizza in Italy, and I was like, what in the hell is this? Where's the cheese? It's just a bunch of bread with some sauce, some very odd ingredients, and it's as if they accidentally got some cheese on there. You know when you get, like, French fries from the fast food place? You get the regular French fries, and there's a couple curly fries in there. It's like, oh, what a blessed surprise. The mistaken transfer of some twisty, curly French fries into my straight French fries, or vice versa. That's what it looked like with the cheese on the pizza in Italy. It seemed accidental, and I did not like that. I like a lot of cheese. So again, taste is one of those things you do not argue. It is purely, it's specific to each individual. You cannot have a debate on taste because it's different for every person. But I can sure still think you're crazy. I'm not going to debate you with it or argue with you on it. But I'm going to have my feelings. And I think you're crazy. I think our pizza's better. New York to Boston to Domino's, better than Italian pizza. And then our pasta, it's better. I don't know if we put more sugar in our tomato sauce or that it's just more cheese. But I like ours better. I don't know. Everything. Burgers and... I'll tell you right now, I will say this. You go to Thailand, their Thai food, it's exactly the same as here. Lovely. It's lovely. Tastes the same. Whereas some foods, I have not been to China, but from most people I've talked to, ours is, again, better by the preferences of the individuals who've gone there. Whatever we do with our Chinese food here, whatever those wonderful cooks do with the Chinese food here in America that they don't do over there, they must know something about our American palates, and they fine-tune it to where it's a, top-class sports car of food. Delicious. Haven't heard that about the food in China. So that's all. That's all. I'm still experiencing this. I'm still open to having my mind changed. I'm going to Peru soon. I've had Peruvian food. It's very interesting. I like it, I think. I like it. So I'll know. I'll know when I go there how I feel their Peruvian food is versus ours. Anyways, that's all. So, yes, and if you disagree with me, please tell me. Tell me the countries that you've been to where you thought their local, authentic flavor of their food was better than the Americanized version we have here. You can put it on our website or on Facebook or Instagram. I'd love to hear what you have to say because I'd like to be wrong. I would like to be wrong. And maybe I'll go to that country, you know? And when I go there, and I'll go try and I'd welcome being incorrect. So change my mind, please. So that is it. Have a wonderful holiday. If you can take anything away from this, it will be to, sure, make a better effort at talking to people, introducing yourself in places that maybe typically you would put your headphones in and ignore them. Have the opportunity to create relationships with people. And for God's sake, if you feel like you haven't been doing a good job of maintaining relationships with people, try harder. Reach out to someone you haven't talked to in a while. Ask them for coffee. It's $3, people, if you get a black coffee. Or hell, put cream in it. Cream's free. $3. Go spend an hour with someone, and you will be shocked how much, one, that's going to mean to you, to them, to be thought of. And you know what? Make a habit of it. Make a habit of reaching out to people, different people, once a month. How hard is it to put an hour aside once a month? I mean, if you do weekly, that's awesome. But find the time. It cannot just be texts and calls. If they're close enough to drive to, make the effort to see them. Even if it's you making all the effort, even if it's you driving to them. It will mean a lot to them, and it will help to build your relationships and make them better. So, I challenge you with that. Have better relationships. And I challenge you to prove me wrong and tell me a country that their version is better than ours. Take care.
I want you to know it's over.
And?
Your heart is free.
No, the journey doesn't end here.
Have the courage to follow it. Take that beauty, run. Don't look back. Live every second. Leave now. Leave now.
Bye-bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle.
Think it'll work?
It would take a miracle. Bye-bye.